Welcome back to the final part of our four-part series with Christian Graf of Anzaplan. Welcome back, Christian.
Hi, Harry. Welcome back, and I hope it's not last and least. I hope it's again one of the better episodes of the series. Looking forward to this, and thanks for viewing in again.
No worries. At a very high level, what does the market most consistently misunderstand about graphite purification today?
I think the major misunderstanding is that people think there's a universal recipe, which we often see in clients just asking us, yeah, we just need to be purified. And then we say, okay, what's your composition? And they say, yeah, just purify this. There is no universal recipe. You can use a kind of a very universal approach, but this approach is not the most economic beneficial way. So you need to adjust your recipe based on your feed material. But there are a lot of competitive processes and a lot of early on testing can be done to do this and to get to really a competitive recipe, which gives you a good pricing. There's also existing data which help you to come to this. And also you have to consider that the graphite space is a performance material space, especially when it comes to spherical graphite anode materials and these downstream value products. So this is material that's not comparable to a mining product. That's more comparable to a product of chemical industry. That's more comparable to a performance material, as I said. So we're not. This is not sold by spec sheets. This is sold by a performance. So you need to find values. There's impurity levels that you need to be made, and all these needs to be done in a very customer specific way, which makes it a little bit challenging in the traditional junior mining space because the mindset is different.
And based on your experience and what you're seeing, let's talk synthetic versus natural. How do you see the long-term split setting out?
Okay, I'm always funny about these versus question. I think it's always an and question, but the split is always there because both materials are graphite materials, but they are significantly different. So when it comes to natural graphite, there's definitely a cost aspect which is beneficial to them. Also, the ESG requirements on them, so the carbon load that comes with the graphite is significantly lower. When it comes to synthetic graphite on the pro side, we definitely see the way better performance of this. So summing this up a bit, we see that this may depend a lot on external factors that is not driven by the supply market, but more from the demand side of the market. So we are also seeing how will pricing develop, how will pricing of energy develop, how will pricing of the feed materials in case of the synthetic graphite of petcoke, in case of natural graphite of the reagent will develop. We just saw this with Strait of Hormuz that sulfuric acid prices just spiked by 200% and so on. It's also what application will it be used in? Are we going more on the high-end performance market? Are we going on a volume market? I think these markets will have a significantly performance, which comes a lot more from the demand side and not so much from the supply side. As I said on the very beginning of this chapter, I think it won't be a versus, it will be a with. And as you rightfully said, it will be always a share of both of them. But if it is 2/3, 1/3, or 1/3, 2/3, I think it's somewhere in this between. Both materials will play a role in the next years, in the next decade.
Great explanation. And over this four-part series, we've covered quite a lot. But if you had to boil it down to one thing right now for a graphite company sitting on a resource, what is one single piece of advice you'd give to them in terms of approaching the next 18 months?
What I'm always saying to clients is don't take shortcuts because shortcuts will pay out very much on the later end. And if you worked in projects, you know the magic triangle between quality, time, and money. So if you want to have it good and fast, it won't be cheap. So you can basically pick any two of these three. The third one will be the result of this, but you can't have fast, cheap, and good together. So make your decision wisely. And I think the money you spend early on in the process, understanding your material, developing a robust flow sheet, make sound decisions, will pay out on the end. and it will be more cost effective than hurry on in the early phases and then and see then in the later phases that you have to re-engineer. That's way more expensive. Also, a good example is if you skip piloting and go directly into production because nobody wants to fund the pilot for you, you will significantly increase ramp up times and this risk there. So the costs in later phases per time is significantly higher in earlier phases. So if you spend more time in earlier phases, this is money wise spent, and it's less money wise spent than spending more money on the back end of the process. Typically, if you have to spend it on the back end of the process, your project will fail, and you just delayed that risk to the later phases.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, thanks for that, Christian. That concludes the 4-part series. Pleasure chatting to you, Christian, and look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Likewise, let's stay in contact and happy to help you, your clients, and all viewers.
Fantastic. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Graphite Hub's interview series. We'll see you next time.